On this day, in 1875, Brisbane had been experiencing nasty weather for a number of weeks, which was playing havoc with the shipping coming into Moreton Bay. Across Queensland's east coast, the rains have been causing sporadic disorder, resulting in flash flooding through the Brisbane and Mary River catchments and more substantial flooding across the Fitzroy and Burdekin River catchments further north. In Moreton Bay, heavy winds whipped the sea to a raging foam, creating absolute mayhem for any vessel wishing to either enter or leave the safety of Brisbane's port. A few days earlier, on the 17th of March, a 289-tonne bark named the St Magnus had arrived from Adelaide and had dropped anchor off Moreton Island awaiting a pilot. The sturdy vessel, having plied the familiar route between Adelaide and Brisbane many times before, was carrying a cargo consisting of 418.5 tonnes of flour, 10 tonnes of bran and 30 bundles of corn sacks, heavy sacking, much to the anticipation of the eager residents of Brisbane. Along with the crew of about 8, Captain Easterbrook had brought his wife and young son along for the trip. Once anchored inside Cape Moreton, the pilot, Howe, was hailed to navigate the vessel through to the safety of port. However, once aboard, a very nasty gale sprung up. In order to be safe, the decision was made to put back out to sea in order to provide the sailing vessel room to manoeuvre if needed, given the very poor conditions. Not long after, tragedy would befall the vessel. On the afternoon of the 19th of March, Captain Charles John Nightingale of the steamer Boomerang reported sighting the hull of a large vessel drifting upside down off Cape Moreton. The report stated the visible hull was newly coppered. Hulls of sailing vessels in the era were sheathed in copper to deter marine borers and sported a blue covering board and yellow riband. Bags of Hart's flour could be seen floating alongside, which strongly hinted at the vessel's identity being that of the St Magnus. Despite the story breaking in the Brisbane Courier the next day on the 20th of March, it took days for the authorities to send vessels into the area to confirm the sighting or even look for survivors, a delay for which they would be heavily criticised. On official reports being received in Brisbane of a capsized vessel being spotted off Cape Moreton, 2 government steamers lay in port at Queen's Wharf, the Kate and the Laura. However, despite the urgency of the situation and potential loss of life on the St Magnus, the steamer Kate was sent out by the Colonial Secretary's Department on nothing more than a pleasure cruise to the anchored British warship HMS Blanche with a delegation of ladies and gentlemen. The Laura, the other government steamer available at the time capable of a rescue mission, was unable to leave her berth until late in the afternoon due to a supposed lack of coal, despite the government wharf being well supplied with coal for just that purpose. By the time the Laura was launched on a search and rescue mission, too much time had transpired. She returned to Brisbane, cap in hand, having not found a trace of the missing St Magnus or her crew amidst the ongoing heavy seas. By the 22nd of March, flotsam and jetsam had begun to wash up on Fraser Island, including a ship's figurehead and copious quantities of bagged flour. A large portion of the vessel also washed ashore at Inskip Point the next day, alongside an empty ship's boat carrying the name St Magnus. Possessions and wreckage recovered from both sites further confirmed the vessel's identity, as well as the fears that all on board the St Magnus had perished at sea. Over the past couple of decades, remains of a wooden vessel are periodically exposed from the sands during extreme weather events at Inskip Point. While some hope and claim it may be the remains of the St Magnus, the ship's carcass is more likely that of the Natoni, another later vessel that holds its own in the history of Australia and Antarctic exploration. Either way, St Magnus or Natoni, the final resting place of the St Magnus crew, Captain Easterbrook and his wife and young son, or the pilot Howe, have never been determined. May they all rest in peace.